New statistics show the cost of achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions. McKinsey & Company estimates it will cost, get this, $9.2 trillion in annual spending to reach that goal by 2050. Meanwhile, climate activists are encouraging people over 60 to pull their money from banks in the hopes that the institutions will be forced to divest from fossil fuels. Environmentalist Bill McKibben, who is the founder of Third Act, is behind the divestment initiative. Valerie Rockefeller is also assisting in the joint venture with her organization, BankFWD, and they are both joining us now to talk about this. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right. So, Bill, let me start with you. Why is your group, Third Act, specifically pushing for people over 60 to divest their investment from banks that invest in fossil fuels?
Because people over 60 have most of the money. When we look at financial assets in the U.S., baby boomers and silent generation, fairly or not, have ended up with about 70% of them. Young people have been in the lead on the climate fight. Everybody knows Greta Thunberg, but there are thousands and thousands of other young people who are doing an amazing job. But we can't take the biggest crisis the world ever saw and just assign it to 17-year-olds as extra homework. Time for the people with some resources to say, we did not save for our whole lives in order to have the money used to destroy the climate we want to leave to our children and grandchildren.
Okay, Valerie, I don't think there isn't a straight line, I think, for most people between their bank that gave them, a car loan or their mortgage and fossil fuels and divesting from fossil fuels. So can you sort of explain the role that banks play?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's great to be reunited with Bill. We've been working together for over a decade on fossil fuel divestment, which is the first part for the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, which I chair, and some other family members and organizations moved out of fossil fuels, the source of the family wealth. And in our philanthropy and our personal lifestyle decisions, we are climate responsible as much as we can be. There is a huge missing piece, which Bill also brought to our attention in an article he wrote about JP Morgan Chase, which is where our dollars lie is actually undermining all the other work that we're doing. So I, for example, this house I'm in right now, my mortgage is with JP Morgan Chase, and they are by far the leading bank in terms of funding dirty energy. And we are not going to be able to achieve the 1.5 degree Paris goal, where 191 countries plus the EU came together and committed in 2015 that we were going to align our development, that nations have committed to have their fossil fuel emissions. Banks need to be part of that. Right now, they're funding the problem, not the solution.
Yeah, I think, Bill, it's important that our viewers and the people who are reading the pieces that you publish understand that when we are talking to Valerie and you guys are working together to do this, we're talking about Valerie Rockefeller of the Rockefellers, right? The descendants of J.D. Rockefeller. And they've been able to, they have firsthand experience in this push to divest money from fossil fuels. So talk about the ambitious goal. The goal is to reach net zero greenhouse emissions by 2050. Where exactly would $9.2 trillion need to be vested to help reach this target?
Well, that's the thing. We need the banks and other sources of finance helping bankroll what we have to do, what the scientists tell us we must do, which is build out renewable energy at a rate we have never seen before. The problem is the banks are doing some of that now, but Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America have also lent more than $1 trillion into the fossil fuel industry since those Paris Climate Accords were signed, even though scientists have told us now that we have to stop as of right now, building more fossil fuel infrastructure. The banks are just professional arsonists at this point, just tossing money at an industry that everybody knows has gone rogue.
Valerie, last year the Government Accountability Office told Congress that people's retirement funds are at risk because of climate change. Can we talk about this risk and whether or not people should be concerned? I think, once again, like I said, for many people, there isn't a straight line between their local bank and fossil fuels. I think for many people, there isn't a straight line between their retirement investment and climate change.
They want the best rate or they want the best returns.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But people are also making huge efforts, and especially young people are well aware of climate dangers because they're the ones who are going to be living with it. I mean, one of the moral quandaries of all of this is those who have done the least to create the climate change are those who are suffering the most. And young people are well aware of this injustice. And with a focus on equity in general, they're looking at where the source of power is. And right now it is with the banks who are taking their money that you're trying to make responsible decisions in every other way, and thinking long term. Your retirement account is a long term prospect. In fact, the short-term profits that the leading U.S. banks, in particular, we've been focusing on with BankFWD, are focused on, they're putting us all at long-term risk, not just the short-term pollution and the, just the 65 million climate refugees, everything we've seen. I mean, the pandemic has been horrible with COVID. It is nothing compared to the entirely predictable systemic risk we have of climate change. Yet this short-term thinking is putting our long-term investments at risk because, frankly, science dictates we cannot keep investing in fossil fuels. And so what we need to do is transition that money to clean energy, or we're just going to burn the planet up. We've got to keep focused on the goal of 1.5 degrees maximum climate warming. And the banks have to play a role, not just their marketing departments talking about the few investments that they're making in alternative energies. And they need to talk about phasing out fossil fuels. That's what we're asking them to do. And at this point, First Republic is the only one of the 25 major US banks. They're not fully aligned with the Paris goals, but they have committed to phasing out fossil fuels. Lyndon.
I really feel like this is so fascinating because I think just a couple of years ago, we were talking about what you guys spoke about, how, it's the sort of the younger generations, younger than the millennials, that are spearheading this move towards climate change, right? Yeah. And the boomers who were responsible for like this whole social revolution, right, in the 50s and 60s were not even being talked about. In fact, right. Okay, boomer, there was a lot of finger pointing. And so I find it very, very interesting what you guys are doing to kind of bring back that spirit of revolution, if you will, that really the boomers started. Yeah. And reminding them of their roots and that they can make some social change.
But also the point that Bill and Valerie are making, which is that a lot of the people that are most affected by climate change are not the ones who created it. No. And some of those boomers bear responsibility for that too.
Yeah. Bill McKibben and Valerie Rockefeller, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.